walk out to the show and pour out your door. We got all this love for you. Touch down on that flame and put in a flame. More than just a podcast for you.
Thoughts before we transition to the next question?
Good.
All right, one more. We have two more questions when we're done. So, when should an athlete really start lifting weights? What's the magic age?
I've always said, don't do it too early, because it's just really just watching a kid develop from the time he's born, and then, he gets up to 9, 10 years old, because he's still growing. And sometimes we can do things to prevent that body to grow. So I always said, wait until you get in high school, or maybe at, if he's developed a little bit more muscle wise than most kids, then maybe in the 8th grade, but never too early, because, the body, when you start lifting weights, you got to know what you're doing, and you want to give your body a chance to respond to it. A lot of people get into it and they go hard, and they end up with injuries, and they end up with, it's bad. I've seen so many different cases. Hundreds of them. And it's like, man, you just let a kid have fun and grow and be a kid. And, if he loves sports, then just keep spoon feeding him. He's going to show you what he likes. It's really not that hard to know if your kid going to be an athlete or not.
I say calisthenics until you're 13, but I did want to ask Kevin, because all these football players, all they do is squats. Squats. That's how they do. Can squats stunt your growth?
No.
They can't?
So the science is right now that with the appropriate weight, or with the appropriate conditioning of the young athlete, you can weight train at any age. But weight training in some cases may just be body weight training. It may not involve, it may just be squatting under your own body weight and working on your form and working on your ability to maintain balance and bracing while you're squatting versus, a football player throwing a barbell on your back and trying to do it. But yeah, the science is pretty clear now. The whole idea of like stunting the growth or the growth plates in your bones and some of that, they pretty much have proven that is not, under appropriate supervision, appropriate programming, you can't really hurt your kid by lifting weights if you do it right. I find that just asking otherwise really extremely athletic young men to just do a push-up shows me all kinds of things. Or asking them to squat. And, and the kids are, physical education today. We all may have grown up where we actually did things like hopscotch, or we did things that were very subtle, but they were teaching us how to move, how to balance on one foot, how to bend, how to do things. And the lack of PE today has produced a lot of a lot of kids are athletic, but they don't know how to move real well. And so it's a long story, but lifting weights is not an issue as long as you do it right. But many kids may need to just learn how to move and learn how to bend, how to move, how to rotate, how to have posture. And it's just unfair because some kids are just total naturals, and it creates a lot of tension among parents because, like I was telling you, Randy, I have a young man who's playing for me right now. He's 12 years old with size 14s, and his legs are probably 38 inches, but he's only 6 feet tall. He's going to be huge. And I have him right now, and I'm weight training him right now, but not that much weight training as much as just getting him to figure out how to move 40-inch legs when he has about a 12-inch body, and how to develop his motor skills. So, long answer to yes, you can weight train kids at any age, but there may be better ways to train kids depending upon their circumstances.
Yeah. Well, now let me dig into that. And this is why I responded to weight, because I'm thinking weights. But, you know,
Right.
Kevin took it to a whole nother level, which is good, because typically people, when they ask the question, more than less, it's all about those plates going on a bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they talk about lifting weights too early. So that's what I responded to and answered to. I'm big on calisthenics. I'm big on band work. I'm big on just natural push-ups and running and stadiums. Can develop a body just as better as putting some plates on a bar.
Correct.
And be just as bigger. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. How I took that question was about the bar and the plates.
Right. Yeah. A back squat, a barbell back squat is not where you want to start with your child. You know, I can't think of any circumstance that would be your first move, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that this question.
That's what they do, though, Kevin. That's what they do when they want to. Oh man, I'm gonna put my son on the weights. He want to put him on the bench with 225 plates on each side. He ain't but 12 years old and can't do 25 push-ups.
Well, but again, that's back to, you know, what we're dealing with, right? Hey, I saw it at the high school when I was a high school coach. You know, and this is before I really got into the business. That wasn't uncommon. First day of weight conditioning is everybody back squats, and it was. And looking back at it, the potential injuries that we were causing is mind-boggling, because these poor kids, and these are basketball players that already don't squat real well, and you know, squatting basketball players is one of those myths too. You don't really squat basketball players, but a lot of people still do because it's just a common strength, you know, thing. Yeah. I'd take it really easy. It'd take me about 6 months to a year before I'd be putting barbells on kids. There would be a lot of other things we can do before we put a barbell with them.
That's it. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you, man.
I think it's funny that that we had this question because, kid you not, I have to go send it to you, but there was a strength and conditioning coach on my timeline last night, and his son is 4, and he actually had a bar with weights. I think he was squatting 25 times. But the thing is, people are not, I shuddered, I cringed, because there's going to be a dad somewhere that's going to put some weights on his 4-year-old, but they're not realizing that this kid's father is a strength and conditioning coach, and he's been progressing him probably since birth. And so you guys are absolutely right. People do think weights and bars and plates, and I'm like, I think I'm going to be Jay. Let me just put this out here. A lot of places don't have good strength and conditioning coaches. So at a lot of levels, even at the high school level, people shouldn't really be lifting, because what I've learned is it's not the weight you lift, it's the form that you have foundationally. And so like, I hurt my shoulder, and what they had to do was make sure that I had the right form before they even put any weight on the bar. And I don't think that people actually understand that it's the body mechanics, not just the weights. And so in our current society, I would say, just to be on the safe side, middle school is when you should start, because that's when you have more of a chance to have a reasonably qualified strength and conditioning coach. But again, I don't know that a lot of schools have really, no shade, because some people can't afford them, but I don't know that a lot of schools have qualified strength and conditioning coaches to help kids do things in the proper way. Well,
Jamesetta, you know, there's an organization called the National Strength and Conditioning Association, and what's called is the CSCS, a Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, and that's kind of the minimum for being qualified to get in the weight room and to lead the training of athletes. And it's unfortunate that not every high school has a CSCS on staff. And football coach thinks they know weight training. Somehow, just because you're a football coach, now you're a strength training. It's not necessarily true. And so you get weird stuff out there. And just like everything else we've talked about, there's always inconsistencies, but there's a lot of science on it's long-term athletic development, LTAD. If you Google it, you can find all kinds of research on the best way to progress your child from the 3, 4, 5-year-old age all the way up. What's the right time to do strength training, velocity training, change of direction training, acceleration training, explosiveness versus power versus pure strength. You don't have to guess anymore. Yeah, they've proven the appropriate time based on the biological age and also the training age of your child. Because I'm telling you, not all 12-year-olds are the same.
Absolutely not.
And so there's, if your kid's got hairy legs and he's basically looking, testosterone's going, then you can do a lot different things with that young man than some other guy who's not going to hit puberty for another 2 years.
Right.
And really is on a case-by-case basis.
Our strength and conditioning coach at our high school, very, very good. He was on the NCSA board. And so, having conversations with him is what helped me realize that it's not necessarily age specific, and that there's a real need for qualified strength and conditioning coaches out there because kids get hurt. So it's a really interesting conversation. I cringe at the number of people who wait on their kids that really shouldn't because they don't know what they're doing. Last question of the day. I want to set the stage a little bit. Clemson played Virginia last night, and we all know about Charlottesville. So in this time where collegiate athletes and even professional athletes are getting the freedom to wear different symbols of social justice on their uniforms, last night, Trevor Laurence, who has been a voice for social justice, especially in the last couple of weeks, chose just to come out with his last name on his uniform. He did not choose to honor any aspect of any person in terms of social justice. And he's taken a little bit of heat for that in social media. What are your thoughts? Should he have? Should he not have? Do athletes have a responsibility to outwardly show something in regards to social justice on their uniforms?
To me, actions speak louder than words. A lot of people, including myself and my family, we pick at Trevor Laurence because he got the Goldilocks hair and he sucks. But to be serious, a lot of people pick on him because he chose to do that on social media. And the thing about it, actions speak louder than words. Weeks ago, Trevor Laurence led protests and rallies for Clemson. He's been a voice. He's had demands that he wanted the colleges and the NCAA to make things better for the different communities around the country. He's speaking up, and at some point, his speaking up could affect his money, and he's not scared to do that. So one of the biggest athletes in the bubble right now is LeBron James. He wears last name on the back of his shirt. And I always feel that no matter what, if you really, really want to look at things, actions speak way, 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 way louder than words. And Trevor Laurence has been doing a great job of doing that. So,
well, I'm gonna put a twist to it. First of all, it's not Trevor Lawrence's uniform; it's Clemson's. So if Clemson choose to put whatever they agreed to put on their uniforms, the players got to wear it. Now, as far as him announcing, or selecting a particular event or person, then that's his right. Just like any other rights we have that we choose. It doesn't make it right or wrong or indifferent. It's just what their choice was. So he's still Trevor Laurence. He's still the same person. He's growing and developing, maturing just like anybody else. And that's his decision. But again, those uniforms belong to Clemson. I'm just saying that. They can put what they want on, whether the player like it or not.
Kevin?
It's a tough one. I think there's so much, virtue signaling going around that there's so much pressure perhaps on these players to join in on this movement that they may or may not understand, or they may or may not identify with the leaders of, or otherwise. So I can see someone like me who had a little bit of an independent kind of streak and didn't really would like to do what anybody else was doing, just in the name of conformity. I could see myself just being, I'm just not doing it because everybody else is doing it. And that was before social media. And so I don't really know Trevor Laurence, but I think you got to also just let people, this power to conform right now is just, I feel, overwhelming for people. And the inability just to, you can still be a good person and your actions speak louder than your words, and you don't have to do any of this stuff, I believe. But the way we look at it now is just hard to see through that for some of these young players and people in sports. But I kind of like the old days where you don't have a name on the back of the jersey. So I'm kind of like with Coach Toliver a little bit. It's why even have names? It's the name on the front that counts. And but that's just me. I don't quite see. I'm not sure what's gained by what's happening right now with all the things on the back, other than who's winning by wearing all these names on the back of the jerseys, or these social justice phrases.
The reason they're doing it is because at the end of the day, nothing's going to change until the people that aren't affected get affected. So by so many people looking at the people that they admire, these sports figures, not necessarily Clemson, but like, the NBA, baseball, stuff like that, by people who are not affected, seeing this over and over and over again, for some people it puts a thought in their mind, man, let me find out more about what's going on. Just like you said, you want to have a conversation with your kids or whatever, because it's something that some things that you're not experiencing, and I understand that, and that's cool, but it's not going to change until you feel as deep as I do, because you have connections. Just right now, I have different connections, but you have different connections that I don't have. Just like when you brought me down to speak, you had a lot of big time people there when you brought me down to speak, and I was able to, tell my story and actually get them to understand my side. And it's just the same thing. It's just trying to get people aware of a lot of things that's going on that don't affect them at all, period. And it won't affect them, but it's a big thing in the country. That's what they're trying to do.
I think that, well, I won't say I think. I've said this on the show before. Each athlete needs the freedom to pick their issue. And if they don't have an issue, then that's fine too. In this instance, Mr. Laurence has said, he had put out, in my opinion, and maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but we had it on the show before where he and the group of people that he were discussing it with, where they outlined very clearly what they wanted, like relationships with school administrators, athletes, law enforcement officials. So you can tell that the young man is very thoughtful. And he actually listens to the people around him. At the same time, I think he has the freedom to come to the table with things that he wants and things that he doesn't. Like if his deal in this issue is saying, all right, I'm going to be one of the people that brainstorms the path forward, but I'm not necessarily going to be one of the people that wears something visibly, I'm okay with that. Because we all have to choose where we show up in the social justice movement. I made a video for my clients a couple weeks ago, and I was letting them know we all have different gifts and we all have different parts to play, and you have to figure out what your gift is and what your part to play is. And maybe his part to play is just that of organization. and brainstorming and visualizing ideas, but he isn't the person that goes out and says, well, I'm going to wear something visible. I don't know if that even, that may not align with his personal values. And I think it's okay for the young man to say, all right, I will do it. I'll take actions A and B, but action C, I'm not going to do that. I don't think that people should. I know that they will judge him for not. At the same time, just because someone doesn't perform in a way we believe that they should, doesn't mean that the other things that they've done don't have value. Lately in our society, we throw people away completely if they just do one thing that we don't like. And I think that's stupid. I think that's really stupid.
Yep. But who does it? The media does it.
Yeah.
Just like they're doing everything else.
And then in your last name, man, is everything. Your last name is everything. I know some people that would get on me about saying your last name is everything, but it's not your real last name. Yes, I got you, but it's what my kids gonna have. It's what my kids' kid gonna have. It's important, so you treat it as such.
I think the only other thing I would add to that is sometimes what I see a lot is like the kid that has the fluorescent colored shoes wants to stand out, or when we're in warm-ups, like in my program, I have an assistant coach, Coach Thomas, and he is so strict that you better have your warm-up on, you better wear the same shirt. We don't tolerate anybody going off kind of on their own. We're a team and we dress alike. So if the team decides it's good, then the coach decides, or whoever's deciding it, then everybody should be the same because you're a part of the team. But if Trevor decided to go off where everybody else is, promoting social justice on the back of their jersey, and he chose to do something different, I think that could be a problem, and that where he's trying to stand out or he's trying to separate himself potentially from the rest of the team for an unknown reason. That versus just when you're in a team environment, I think you just need to you got to step in line a little bit. So
that could be true.
That's a good point.
I agree with you on that one, Kevin.
That's a good point.
Good point.
We see it. I mean, it's always fun to watch in other teams because you can always tell who thinks a lot of themselves by watching them in warm up and how they're dressed.
Oh yeah.
Hey, what we saying back in our youth days, Randy? We still said team what?
Team first.
Team first, baby. Team first.
Yeah.
I
love it.
That is a great way to end the show. That was our last question. I want to thank everybody for listening and thank all the panelists for a great discussion today. This is Jamesetta Cleveland saying thank you for listening to another edition of the Tim4 YouTube show. We'll see you next week.
All right. We out.